right, test. Test. Cool. All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I had to do a quick little mic check, Eric. Appreciate that for the heads up. And yeah, hope everyone's having themselves a good morning here and are ready for a good trading day. A little bit of a bouncy session yesterday, right? Was green, was red, was green, and then was red. It was kind of a needless red day yesterday. Kind of frustrating, right? From that perspective, and kind of a dumb way for my 9-day winning streak to kind of come to an end. Just got a little bit greedy there, and instead of taking the win, held on for a little bit longer than I should have, and turned a nice winning trade right into a losing position. It's a trade that would have put me within, $100-ish of passing my eval account. Maybe that influenced me just a little bit there yesterday. But hey, it is what it is, right? Trading is a game where we lose. It's an unfortunate reality of what we choose to do here for a living. And so today isn't about revenge. Today isn't about making it all back in one go. Today is just about being disciplined, structured, and having the right process in place. We take care of those things, right? The P&L will take care of itself. Our trading will kind of get back to where we want it to be. And always important, right, to identify the why behind why I was red, right? Why behind why we were maybe not getting the performance that we wanted. And it's just understanding that the counter to that isn't about wanting to be green the next day. It's about focusing on the technical reasons that make you green. And that's going to be really the emphasis, right? And sort of the effort, right, that we put forward here this morning. From like an operational perspective, the last day where I have some family in town. So tomorrow's going to be a little bit more back to normal. I'm not going to have, people sleeping in the guest room, the office, and the living room. So it should make things a little bit easier here. And looking forward to having that space back for sure. But in the meantime, no reason why we can't take advantage of the market here today and hopefully put ourselves in a good position, right, to finish off the day with a nice green and kind of get back on track here a little bit. So fundamentally, right, yesterday was not a super interesting trading day. Got a little bit of bouncy price action effectively in both directions. And it was a very, very choppy day. A little bit higher, a little bit lower, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, with no real enthusiasm, right? Or kind of quote unquote trending positions. That being said, right, there were still more than enough opportunities to finish the day green there yesterday. And that I didn't take them was frustrating for sure. No doubts about it. But looking forward to kind of being back on track here and taking advantage of whatever the market wants to give me. We're still sort of looking in what appears to be like a little period of consolidation. And I think I'm optimistic we'll get a breakout here again at some point, and we can take advantage of that pop. So really just looking forward to seeing, how the market wants to treat us here this morning and then go from there. From an economic calendar perspective, it's a little bit, less intense than yesterday, right? We don't have that million Fed speakers on the docket, and we basically just have to deal with crude oil inventories, which is fine by me. So it's a little bit potentially of a smoother day that might create an opportunity for us to have just that nice little breakout opportunity in either direction. And I'm optimistic, right, that today's going to be a good trading day. So that being said, not too much for me to kind of yap about here this morning. Excited to be trading with everyone here today. So let's kind of figure out what we want to do this morning, start mapping things out, and then go from there. Hopefully no issues on the microphone, and yeah, we look like we should be in okay shape. So if there's any issues, please let me know. Otherwise, let's get after it and let's have ourselves a heck of a Wednesday morning. So first things first, what's the count on ES? Let's start there, and then yeah, build it out. And yeah, you're spot on, Eric, right? It's a 2 out of 3 without volume here to the downside. We call it a week, maybe 2 out of 3. And we're going to call it weak because of the candle shape, right? And because the volume isn't exactly enthusiastic. So we're going to maintain flexibility to trade here in both directions. And, you know, maybe we can be a little bit more successful with that here today, right? As the VIX, or the implied volatility, is kind of increasing a little bit. And that gives us some flexibility, right, to be able to trade this in both directions. From our initial targets here to the upside, we're going to be looking at like 59.60. And then 59.70, right, to the upside. And then to the downside here, you know, maybe that move is a little bit more complete. I mean, we're at, you know, spot 85%, implied volatility of like 1.2, 1.3% here today. So we do still have some flexibility here to the downside, but not as aggressive maybe as one would have maybe hoped. I think to the starting point here, we're going to be looking at a 5,900 breakdown here to the downside. And then we can go down to like 58.50. That would be a lot of space if we could get it. Does that make sense? Yes, no, hopefully. All right, I'm going to take that as a yes. Perfect. Okay, NQ, what's the count here? How do we feel? Similar, not so similar? Yeah, I don't think it's an inside bar quite. It just kind of peaked over a little bit there and made a higher high. So we are going to call it still the same count here. And yeah, it's going to be that week 2 out of 3, right, without volume. Realistically, though, right, it's not going to change, Ajay. The difference, we're still going to view this as consolidation. So although it isn't an inside bar, it's a weak pullback day on decreasing volume, and it's on thin volume. So we would treat that the same as an inside bar regardless. So, you know, from that perspective, right, won't matter too much. We really want to break down pre-market conditions into, do we have volume supporting or do we not have volume supporting? If we have volume supporting, then we're kind of looking for more of a directional bias with whatever the volume is telling us. If we don't have that volume, then we're effectively looking for a breakout to establish, right, that new directional bias. So to the upside here, we're going to be looking at 21.5 as my starting point. And then to the downside here, we're at what? 21.2. And then we can maybe go down to like 28. And that's plenty of space, right? If we can get that thing to map out. Again, maybe the big concern is the implied volatility here this morning. It's, you know, the VIX is 19 spot and 1.2. So again, divide that by 16 for like a very rough calculation. And we have an implied range here today of, 1.3-ish%, right? So just got to be making sure that the move overnight hasn't basically been that downside action. Maybe the easiest upside from that perspective, right? Or the easiest move from that perspective could be here to the upside. And we'll see if the market can give us 2 red days in a row. We obviously have seen that happen here, you know, once or twice in this little recent run up, but let's make sure, right, that it does kind of come together. And besides that, don't need to be as cautious as I was yesterday to the downside. So things can be a little bit more chill for sure. All right, and then today's crude oil inventories day, right? So crude oil inventories day, generally not a day where I like to trade the price action. Just ends up being very algo driven, right, on CL. So I'm probably going to stay away from this here today. I have a love-hate relationship with crude oil. Sometimes it's my favorite ticker that has ever existed. Sometimes I pull my hair out trying to trade it. On inventories day, it's usually a bit more the latter, right? And I'm not sure if I have too much hair left to be able to pull out trying to trade this thing. So historically, just worth kind of watching this, right, on CL day instead of trying to trade it too aggressively. So we'll just leave that as is. Okay, Apple. Here we've got an inside bar. Tesla, we've got a 2 out of 3 to the downside with volume. Microsoft, inside bar. Amazon, inside bar. AMD, 1 for 3. So far, kind of looks like a very similar story to the indexes, right? Maybe besides Tesla. Tesla was giving us a little bit of an outlier type reaction. Nvidia's also got the inside bar. So again, right, formal consolidation. Meta, same thing. Netflix just poked its head above there, higher high. So again, right, we are going to call this a 1 for 3. And effectively, right, very similar market conditions to what we're seeing on the indexes, right? Not exactly strong trending price action, days of consolidation, pretty much across the board, and then gap downs pretty much everywhere. Now, there are a few exceptions, right? Tesla and Google clearly showing us some good momentum here to the downside. And they're the names that are showing us the most strength here to the downside, but then they're also gapping up here to the upside a little bit, right? So again, yeah. Any questions there, team? I think that's pretty much it. There shouldn't be a significant difference, right? There might be some small little intricacies, right, from like a price action perspective, and you might see some small discrepancies, right, on the volume. But historically, right, MNQ and NQ, they have a one-to-one correlation, right? So it should be the same price. Where we get into these little micro moves, sometimes maybe your stop loss will be a tick or 2 ticks higher than mine, or a tick or 2 ticks lower than mine. So there'll be some intricacies, and then the volume, right, will look a little bit different on MNQ than it will on NQ. The volume, right, is going to be more reliable on NQ because more people certainly trade it than what you see on MNQ. So, if your objective here is to trade it, I would do your analysis on the larger kind of variant of it, right? So do your analysis on NQ or ES instead of MES or MNQ, and then just make those slight adjustments, right? So I think one thing where we saw some people have maybe a bit of confusion there yesterday when they were trading micros instead of minis, is that on one of the trades, their high was the buffer high, right, that I apply. So when I'm entering a stop loss, I tend to round it up to the nearest round number or add the spread, right? Which means that like if I'm looking at, say, an ES stop loss and my stop loss is 59.1350, I'm going to add a tick to that, right? So it'll be 59.1375. There's a chance that every now and then that extra tick will also be your high of your whatever current candle. So you just need to apply that extra little space to avoid getting that fake out, shake out. That'll be a little bit of a exception. You can't hear me? Discord, can you hear me? Okay, all I was saying, Manjeet, right, is that on MNQ and NQ, you have a one-to-one price correlation, right? They're always going to be the same price, and they're always going to be it's the same security effectively, right? The difference every now will be in the volume profiles. So sometimes you're going to see different volume on MNQ than NQ. There's less volume traded on MNQ, so it's easier to get to that increasing outlier standard. And then just every now and then there might be a 1 or 2 tick difference on the price, right? So if I'm setting a stop loss at 59.13, right, on ES, maybe that stop loss would be 59.1325 on MNQ. So it's just understanding that there's going to be a little bit of a difference there potentially, but a very, very minor one, usually 1 or 2 ticks at most. And so it's just making sure that you're adjusting your order or your position. If you have a question about that, so if we're entering a trade and you want to trade that with minis with micros instead of minis, just send me a question here in the stream and we can map out the trade there as well. And just make sure that the numbers are consistent for everyone. So that goes for anyone. If you're interested in trading micros instead of minis, just let me know, right? And we can also box in that trade and make sure that your stop loss is where I would want it to be if I were trading the minis. Does that make sense? I personally trade the minis, Alan. I personally trade the minis. What do you mean by that? What will I trade first today? Yeah, I mean, I think the bias will be on ES and NQ, right? I think that's where we have the largest expectation of there being action. And I'll be trading those with the minis, not the micros. Any other questions here, team? Any other questions? All right. So if no further questions, then team, I'm going to just take a few minutes here and get my head screwed on straight before the trading day starts. So just give me a few minutes. We'll jump back on in a couple, and then we'll do a quick little rundown here before the session starts. So just bear with me, guys, and I'll jump on in a few minutes. All right, team. So we're going to be back at it here, right? A few minutes before market open. In general, here, right? The story that we're seeing across the board is continuing to consolidate, right? Inside that Monday range. We're looking for a breakout, right? Or a breakdown. It's hard to not argue that we're in a little bit of a bullish trending market, right? At least for the last month or so. And it wouldn't be surprising for today to be like a little bit of a dip buying day. And we'll see if we do get that level of enthusiasm in play. Effectively, what we're waiting for here this morning, right, is for volume to become impressive and for momentum to be obvious. Yesterday was a very kind of choppy, bouncy, good for nothing type of trading day. And we want to make sure, right, that today we're not getting caught up in that same sort of slow and frustrating type of price action. So I'd rather be a little bit more patient here today, right? Kind of wait for my perfect A+ opportunity, get that, best trade I can possibly find. And then once I identify that correct setup and that perfect opportunity, right, look to pyramid into something aggressively, build up my position sizing, and hopefully, right, continue to compound and kind of grow. So we're in pretty good shape here. I think we've got a good expectation that there's going to be action here in both directions. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, what story the market wants to give us. Today, we're going to be focusing pretty much exclusively on the indexes, so on ES and NQ, instead of trading crude oil. This is going to give me, the reason I'm not trading crude oil is because there's data here at 10:30. It ends up being a day that's just historically just all algorithms or algorithmic type trading. And so it's hard for me to develop an edge when it's just reacting to headlines. So instead, going to look to try to take advantage of the indexes, hopefully get that nice early trade, go one and done, right? And sort of go, I got airport duty here too. I was going to say enjoy my day, but I got a lot of driving ahead of me. So looking forward to seeing what the market wants to give us, what volatility looks like here today. If we can get basically a consistent story here, pretty much all of our leading names are telling us a narrative of either like a maybe localized high, right, which would be sort of the Tesla and the Googles of the world, where they're maybe, willing to maybe pull back here a little bit, or we're seeing kind of formal consolidation here across the board. So a little bit more of a consistent story on the markets here today, but it's almost as if we're like all waiting for them to trigger to the next sort of tier, right? The volatility. So might just need to be a little bit of a catch your breath moment here for a little bit. And then we can kind of go from there. And we'll see pretty early on, right, how aggressive or how enthusiastic price action actually is. Are we seeing, good consistent breakouts? Are we seeing good volatility and momentum? Are we seeing more volume, right, than what we saw on the previous day? Those are going to be sort of our early, we'll call it judgment points right here today. Let's see which one basically shows up or shows us that momentum first. And then hopefully, right, we can take advantage of whatever kind of enthusiasm is in store for us. So I'm really excited to see what kind of volatility we get here today. And hopefully, right, it's a really nice tradable range for us. And we can have some joy, we can have some fun, and then go from there. So again, right, a couple things that we're looking out for, especially on NQ. Right, we're expecting a larger range than what we saw there yesterday, right? We've kind of been dealing with the 50-point opening range. Yesterday was, half of that. And then on ES, right, obviously we're still looking for a range to be a little bit closer towards that 10 handle, which we're very much nicely on pace with here, but just making sure that then we also have that volume supporting that narrative and putting us in a good situation, right, to take advantage of that story. So once this opening range gets established, that's when we're going to start to be able to judge, right, how consistent today's narrative is. If we get clean breakouts here early, we're going to have a little bit more of a bias towards like that dip buy scenario. If we get kind of like a fake out in both directions, then we need to be a little bit more patient, and we're going to have to be, it's probably a little bit slower, right, in how we're waiting for price action to come together for us. So I'm excited about what's available to us. I mean, price action's behaving reasonably well. We're kind of back to sort of quote unquote normal type ranges here. And so far this morning, at least, it's been a dip buyer's market, right? We're seeing 45, 50 point moves on NQ, right? And 12 points of just pure dip buyers here so far on ES. So maybe the overreaction here was overnight. But we still got a lot of work to do before we're willing to place a trade or until we see a scenario. So far so good. Reasonable open here to start the day off. And yeah, let's see if we can get a nice level of enthusiasm or a good oomph or a good story. And then hopefully, right, we can have some joy. How's everyone feeling this AM? Everyone feeling good? Beautiful. Good. All right. So let's say the dig you might have just heard there, that was a CL mean reversion alert. We're not going to be looking for CL here to the downside today or to the upside, just in general. So let's see. Not one that's active. So if we're looking here on these shorter time frames, right? This is not a on the 3-min time frame. I don't trade this setup. I look at this from the 5, 10 min time frames on. So I don't have the alert set up here for ES and NQ on these shorter time frames. At least not on the bull side here. But yeah, it is a little bit of that dip buyers type momentum, right, to start the day off. And yeah, if those alerts happen, guys, I'll obviously let you know. I appreciate that, Stuart. Hopefully we have a good day here. We can get some joy. And again, we're going to be judging these early breakouts, right? How enthusiastic are they? Do they hold above basically that opening range high here early? Do we see a level of enthusiasm, right, that would indicate basically gaining momentum? Okay. So we're getting 5 min mean reversion there on ES. That's what that ding was. We also do have that same alert there on N. Oh no, it's just ES and CL have triggered here so far. So this is definitely worth keeping an eye on for it, right? Maybe this could be something that we take advantage of here early. You'd be looking for a 31 point move, right? So from your signal close, 31 points, you're looking right around 59.54. So map that out from profit target to stop loss, and this would be kind of how we box in this trade. I would prefer the aggressive entry technique, right? If we're able to get this here, and that's a CL 3-min ding again. I would prefer the aggressive, right? Because it allows me to get a better position sizing. Otherwise, I need a decent pullback here to be able to justify this entry, right? It's risking 10 points. So right now would be a 1 contract position, which is fine. But for me, 1 contract on ES is rarely worth the extra stress or like the mental capital associated with that. I would need to get a slightly more aggressive position sizing to be able to justify it. So maybe I would go like 18, right? Get 2 contracts, something along those lines. That would be the starting point there. But on these pullbacks, I want to be very patient. Those mean reversion techniques really powerful, but it loves a little fake out, right? It loves a little fake out and go type scenario. And since the first candle, price action's been kind of stuck actually. I don't need to be in a rush yet. And then if these can also trigger there on the 10-min time frame, that would make me a little bit, let's say comfortable. I'm not sure if comfortable is the right term, but that would be probably a little bit closer to what I would like from a execution perspective. Excuse me. So we're starting to watch, right? We've got a couple setups active. And now it's just a question of, can we get the correct type of cooperation for us to get some joy out there today? But ES may be lagging a little bit behind NQ here now. Maybe just a little bit. But again, kind of a slower start to the morning. I've got no problems with that here so far. Oh, and Ajay, just to add to your question, right? It closed below, right, the BB, right, and opened up or closed back towards, or opened below, closed back towards. We want to make sure that right there we're also using the correct Bollinger Band. So these are a custom band calculation. So it's 2.5 times the standard deviation, whereas the normal Bollinger Bands are 1.5 standard deviation. So it's a slightly more extreme Bollinger Band that we're looking for mean reversion scenarios through. So that may be also why you saw that as a setup trigger. Worth noting. At some point here, guys, I will make this indicator available to everyone. Maybe it'll be my weekend project here. I'll get that all set up and squared away. But yeah, just bear with me there for a few days while I kind of get myself back to normal here. Okay, so we did get some 10-min signals there. Those little dings you heard in the background. Those would be maybe a little bit more interesting from my perspective. If this thing ever wants to load. We do have a nice bullish signal here as well on NQ. Hey, Ricky. And we're looking at 166 points. I'll write basically to the upper Bollinger Band here. So ideally, again, here, looking at the aggressive entry technique, this would be a 1 contract play on NQ. And then alternatively, right, it could be a pullback there. We'd be looking for an entry around 300. So let's keep waiting. Let's keep being patient here. Again, we're looking back at the aggressive technique. So stop loss here would be 320. All right, so it'd be a 1 contract play. And just be patient, right? Just be patient. We're not getting any of these trend breakouts here yet, but NQ is definitely the closest. So we're going to be watching this. And that's kind of our reference point here. Okay, so watching closely for sure. Okay, and now looking for a little pullback right into my entry zone, which is that blue line, right? So under 345. Okay, watching. Got the 46 and then makes the bump. Classic. Okay, probably gonna have to wait this thing out now. And again, this should also trigger there on the 15 min time frame. So if I miss this right early, I'm still gonna get another opportunity here. Now the 10 min would be preferred. Okay, so again, still watching here, right? We've had a decent size move. So if it pulls back towards 45, right, don't just panic buy it. Just be a little bit patient, right? Because if it pulls back towards our confirmation candle high, we just want to make sure that the reaction at that area is appropriate. And then, like I said, right, if we don't get that look here on the 10, we're going to have the same opportunity here on the 15 with, again, right, that reset potential entry price. So setup isn't dead here yet. We just have to be maybe a little bit more patient than I would like. Easier said than done. But pretty good move. Pretty good move here to the upside so far. And we're also going to have this effectively breakout scenario here on the 3 min time frame across the board. A little bit stronger, I should say, on NQ than it is on ES, right? We have that increasing outlier volume standard. So again, we could look to box this in, right, and play that setup as well. We kind of have a multi-tiered setup here. And so again, those are 15 min dings. $56 to 18 is a little bit too big of a position sizing requirement, right? So again, I would need a retest of like 45. So this would primarily work best here as an aggressive entry technique. So stop loss 354.50, entry 373-ish. Again, get everything set up here, right? 354, 21,354 would be my stop loss here. And then for those of you trading MNQ, right? On this same setup, your stop loss would be 355. I'll call it 354.25. So actually just one tick lower. So, I mean, I'm having my stop loss set at 354. So if you're trading the micros, you'd want it set up at 353.75. Hey, nice work, Mark. All right, so let's focus here, team. Let's focus here. Looking now for a gentle pullback. Not the right one yet. We're kind of looking at this, right, to act as our support area. All right, so we're back kind of in business here. And again, just be a one contract play, just a one contract. So let's see if I can get a little pullback here. Come on. Okay, guys, so I am in average price 373.25, 373.25. And not a perfect reaction here post entry. Let's see if it's got the legs. Got a little bit of slippage on my order, I think, to a certain extent. Nothing too crazy. Well, let's see if this thing's got the juice. Come on, get back up here. We want to try to get above 380, right? That's kind of what we're watching for. There it goes. Right on schedule. And so far, so good here. So far, so good. Let's see if it can now hold 380 right as this candle closes, and then we can start thinking about potentially pyramiding in here. So 6 seconds to go. Decent close. Yeah, very decent close. So again, let's see where we find some support, and then we can look to pyramid in and start to increase our position sizing. Okay, that's not it. And again, effectively, we're going to want to push our stop loss to be the low of whatever this candle is. Okay, come on. Okay, fantastic. So behaving well. Okay, I'm going to start to look for a pyramid entry here, guys. So that I am in here now. So average price 381. Average price now 381. And let's see if this thing can keep pushing higher here. And I have two contracts now. So average price here, 381. And this thing is really rocking and rolling. So fantastic first trade here. And I'm potentially interested in adding another contract. Okay, which I have just done. That makes my average price now to be 388. 3 contracts. And now, right, the emphasis on making sure I close this position as my P&L is increasing, right? So as my P&L is increasing, maybe a little bit too aggressive with that last ad, but that's okay. Okay, he's got to get back up and over here and push, push, push. Yeah, probably a little bit too aggressive with that last addition. Bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Come on. Come on. We're pushing. And now it's really got to start to fly here, right? Really got to start to fly. Get back up above that 400. And again, right, this 400 breakout's where we saw price action get stopped in the past. So again, right, another failure here. I'm going to have to get out. It's low of my entry candle or above my entry price. There's a video inside the Discord that breaks it down in more detail. I'll be happy to answer your question. I just need to really focus on this. So just bear with me for a few minutes, Cole. And so still watching. Come on. Okay, last attempt here. Last attempt. It's almost 10. Come on. And just doing a quick peek here of the leading names. Yeah, that last pyramid was a little bit too aggressive for me. Okay, watch, watch, watch. Has to be our chance. Has to be here our chance. And again, right, the key here is just not to panic. Don't do anything crazy. Come on. Okay. Oh, there it goes, guys. I have closed, guys. I have closed this trade. I have closed this trade, guys. I have closed this trade. Exit price. Wow, I got a gift and a horse mouth there. Exit price was 425. Exit price was 425. And that was a really delayed reaction. But yeah, exit price 425. Wow, that worked out fantastic, team. Let's go. Huge win. So just a little bit over 2,200 on that trade. Boom. Makes back for everything from yesterday and then some, right? So really, really, really good trade here, team. Hopefully you guys took advantage of that big pop. And yeah, awesome, guys. Awesome, awesome, awesome trade. And then the reason, right, to close that is once it happens faster than you'd expect, and we ripped, 40 points in 3 seconds, you take that gift and you run, right? And that's exactly what that was. I hung tough there, Ajay. Hopefully I talked you guys through it. Right? It was just making sure, don't panic, right? Don't panic. Great rip. Again, too aggressive on that third pyramid. That made this trade a little bit more challenging maybe than it needed to have been. But I will take that all day long. Hey, $700 Cole is a great result. Well, the stop loss does move, right? It moves to the low of your entry price or to above your average price. But I have to have the flexibility to say, hey, this is behaving the way that I want. My timing's a little bit off. Let me stay in this, right? I will always let you guys know where I push my stop loss, when I push that, when I change it. That'll always be available to you guys. I didn't change that, right? Like I will always write out my updated plan here on my screen or draw right where my stop loss location is. Nice work, Herschel. Really, the idea of pyramiding, right, is that once you identify that price action is behaving the way that you expect or behaving the way that you want, how can I increase my position sizing, right, to take advantage of that? And that's the idea, right? So in my opinion, this trade was continuing to still behave relatively reasonably well. We weren't able to break down right after that rejection low. And we just needed to get a little bit of lucky with the timing. So if you ever want, right, Ajay, if I don't answer that question or I'm not clear about that, right, this is where the chat is going to be your friend. Hey, Michael, what's your stop loss? Hey, Michael, what's your plan on this? Hey, Michael, XYZ. The point of being in this program is I will tell you what I am doing. I will say that I'm a flawed human being where sometimes, right, when I get focused or I get, I'm really watching price action here, I can understand how I maybe don't answer questions as well. So just ask me, right? I'm not going to hide it from you. I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing or what I'm not doing. Sorry, right? I'll tell you exactly what my plan is. So if you have confusion over what you should be doing, get that question asked before you're forced to make a decision. And hopefully we can avoid, right, some of that unfamiliarity. So Randy, I trade 7 150K accounts. After this most recent trade, I should be trading 8 starting tomorrow. Yeah, guys, if I'm not making my plan clear enough, right, or you're not sure what I'm doing, just say, hey, Michael, give me an update on the plan, right? And I will tell you. Like the point, right, is get your questions answered in the moment, not after. because that just creates confusion and it creates like FOMO too, right? Yeah, for sure, Ajay. So I'll try to do my best on what price. Truth be told, when I'm looking to pyramid into price action, I'm less looking at a specific price and I'm more looking at a reaction, right? So I'm waiting once I see elevator up and then stairs down post entry. So it's really just when I see that I get that elevator up price action, I'm seeing it separate aggressively on. I want to basically get my order to be executed so I can take advantage of that elevator move. So I'll do my best to let you guys know. It'll be probably something like I'm looking for a pyramid here because truth be told, I'm not picking a specific price when I'm pyramiding in. I'm adding sizing based on the reaction, not necessarily based on a pullback or breakout through a price. That makes sense? Like there, for example, right? My pyramid ads were 401 and 391.75. Actually, fill price of 390.50 and 475. So it's once we got that pyramid breakout through 400 or that elevator breakout, sorry, through 400, I just looked to buy, right? And same thing when we got through that 390, once I get that breakout on aggression through, like it's eating up everything, I want to now jump in, right, on that basically, or on that basic action. So truth be told, guys, it's 7:09, just past this other eval account. I'm not sure if I'm going to place any further trades here this morning. I feel pretty good with how the day went or how the day has gone here so far. We'll stick around and watch for a little bit, but I'm not going to over trade my gains here now, right? Nice work, Mark. It's a heck of a day, man. You're crushing it. But yeah, all things considered, your team, right? Pretty good day. A little bit of a stressful trade, no doubt about it. But a good day nonetheless. Everyone feeling good? So yeah, I think we did a pretty good job closing where we did again, right? This breakout higher where we took our profit or where I took profit, right? I didn't top ticket whatsoever. It's just that move through 400 happened so quickly. I have to get out, right? The move happened faster than I expected. I spent a little bit of time in drawdown. I got to take that gift, right, for when it's present. No, not at all. Yesterday we had a pyramid where I got into 11 contracts. So I won't cap it. It just requires you need the right position sizing to start, right? So you need the right risk requirements to start on your trade. Like on this trade, right? Our initial risk was 20 odd points. So that's a trade where I could only start off the position with one contract. Had that maybe initial risk been 5 points or 10 points, then I probably would have been able to get up into say 6 to 10 total contracts. So it's just a question of, what kind of risk you can have on that initial position. How many contracts can I buy while still risking less than $500? And then, the more contracts you start with your base, the easier it is for you to be really aggressive with how many contracts you're buying on each subsequent pyramid entry. But the idea here, right, is that when I'm pyramiding, and that's exactly it, right? Pyramiding is a technique that allows me to create a significant margin of error with my trading. So you know, it kind of like juices the risk reward, right? Opposite, or juices the risk reward in your favor and creates more margin for error, right? So if my win rate, yeah, I'm not going to bother with CL here today because it's crude oil inventories day and that data drops in 18 minutes. So this is a non-tradable ticker for me here today. But yeah, the idea here, right, is okay, if I'm targeting a 3-to-1 risk reward, right, or I'm targeting a 1-to-3 risk reward, so for every dollar I'm risking, I should be expecting to make $1 or $3 back. If I pyramid into position, I can turn those risk reward equations into a 1-to-10, 1-to-20, 1-to-50 risk reward, and really juice up my kind of like margin for error, right? So it allows me to take more shots and be wrong on small losses, because one win can very quickly, right, basically make back everything and then some. And so I love that as a technique. It's something that's used by a lot of like funds and institutions. They'll do it a little bit differently because they don't have the ability to go all in, all out on a position in the same way that us retail traders do. But that's the base concept, is it allows me to, once I'm in a winning position, to trust that my wins are going to continue to be strong, and then really juice up the odds in my favor for when they do come together. Again, right, this trade wasn't super easy. And at some point I was dealing with, you know, $800 worth of drawdown, which is not a fun number. But you just got to focus on your posture, focus on your breathing, right? Yeah, Jared, there's a video inside the Start Here channel called How to Pyramid into Trades, I think. Should be Pyramiding into Winning Trades, How to Turn Your Wins into Big Wins, video number 7 in the Start Here channel. And that's something that I'm trying to be a little bit more aggressive in doing. And that aggression is working well, but I'm still making a few mistakes there, right? Like I said, that addition I had at 400 was a little bit too aggressive. I could have gotten a better price or a better pullback and made my drawdown, right, much more manageable or much more, much more reasonable. So, you know, I'm not complaining about that result. I'm not complaining about that trade. You know, $2,200 to start the day off is a great result, but there's still things I could have done better there that would have turned maybe 2,200 into 3K, right? Or something along those lines. And so I'll make sure to study that here this evening and continue to improve and get better. But yeah, truth be told, team, I don't see myself doing much else here today. 45 minutes in, I made more than enough, recovered yesterday's drawdown. So I'm not in a huge rush to overtrade, trade my P&L here, truth be told. Everyone green here on the day. How's everyone feeling? Love it, Eric. Love it. Beautiful Nautilus. Fantastic. Yeah, I think so too here, Robert. Like that breakout that we saw here, right, on the indexes, that's kind of a weird one, right? Because it's a little bit of like the type of move you'd expect on a capitulation type move versus a continuation type breakout. And then we literally jumped from, I mean, it's a single candle here, right? From, we'll call it 64 to 43, you know, almost 80 points, right, in 1 minute. So you got to take that and run. to a certain extent, right? That I'll go bail this out or bail this out with from an easier trade. Let's go, Kyle. Nice work, man. $1,300 is fantastic. Yeah, I wonder if the market's going to give us a reaction post inventories. That wouldn't be too surprising. Yeah, heck of a day, team. Heck of a day. You just have your finger hanging out over your X button on your position. Right, so you have your mouse hanging out on your close trade or on a market order button, and you just get out. All right, so it's the second it gives you that big explosion, way faster than you expect, you just get out. Yeah, it was not an easy one, Rusty, not at all. But hey, glad it worked out for us. It was the right thesis. It was the right idea. Just sometimes you got to get a little bit of cooperation. So, team, any questions? I think at this point, I'm probably going to take the family out for some breakfast. I reckon I probably owe them that now at this point. Yeah, great day. No complaints. Not going to do anything else. Sounds good, Mike. Enjoy your afternoon. Well deserved to have an early day here. Hey, Brooke, $1,400 is a fantastic result regardless. So no worries. Well done, mate. So I use a combination of a bunch of firms there, Nick. So I use TopStep, Tradeify, and My Funded Futures. That's sort of my split here at the moment. With 5 of them, will be now 5 live funded accounts with TopStep again. Yeah, I think, Mark, it's important to realize that as a trader, we get paid for our decisions and not our time. And there's like a skewed risk relationship here, right, in giving back that green day. So I'm going to feel 10 times worse seeing this $2,200 turn into $200 than I am seeing this $2,200 turn into 3,000, for example, right? Yeah, so great question. The session, I mean, you can watch it back at any time here now. So if you just go into the live stream link tab, just click that and you can watch it back. The video will officially end once I finish streaming here for the day, but you can go back and rewatch at any time you want via the live stream link tab. So I don't know, there's probably 1,000 live streams in there at that point, and it'll be the most recent one for today's session. So they're all live and they're uploaded once they're done, but you can go back and rewatch at any time. All right, team. Any other questions here? Any other questions? All right, team. Final call here. Final call. All right, team, final call here. Final call. Yeah, great little bounce back day here, right? Great little bounce back day. Huh. Puts me right over 600. Fantastic. I'm at psychological resistance in my personal P&L. Good times. Oh, no worries. Did you see the trade we took here today? All right, team. Well, if no further questions here, then I'm going to kill the stream for the day. Same deal like always, right? If you have any questions, hit me up outside of market hours, and I'll do my best to do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Just bear with me here a little bit today. I got a bunch of driving and stuff to do, so I might be a little bit, for good reason, not checking my phone here like a lunatic. But besides that, kind of back to our normal schedule tomorrow, and everything from there. So no complaints here, team. Really good trading day. Kind of got a little bit lucky here, right? To a certain extent, which is with the timing of it all. That worked out pretty much perfectly, but that's just the way it goes, right? So happy with the result, happy with the P&L. Great to have done well here. Nice little bounce back day, right? After yesterday's kind of frustrating trading. So, that resilience, I think, is a really important skill set for us to kind of reward and to be proud of and to celebrate. And I think the old school traders here with me know that it's probably time for a celebratory breakfast, maybe some eggs Benny and just a few too many coffees. But really looking forward to trading with you guys all tomorrow. And let's keep compounding and turning this into an absolutely monster week. So have yourselves a great day, team. Looking forward to talking to you all then, and we'll catch up soon. Peace.